Like this.
And we're live.
We're live. Hey, everyone, and welcome to Spaghetti and Baseballs, brought to you by the IBF. I'm your co-host, Natalie, alongside Chris Colabello. Chris!
Hi, Natalie. I'm still sweating. So you know how like when you work out and then you take a shower too quick after? These are the sacrifices I make for the Italian American Baseball Foundation. So I'm still like, there's like a gloss on me, and it's, at first you're like, oh, it's just, I got a shower, but now it's turning into a full sweat. And I'm a little bit nervous about our guest too. Like, I really liked him, watching him.
I think our guest, part of a big baseball family. They were the first third generation people to play baseball. There's over 19,000 MLB players. Yeah. And his grandfather, him, and his brother.
Yeah. So that's baseball royalty. If you want to put it that way.
Absolutely. So should we get the show started?
Sure. I'm gonna again, if I stutter over my words tonight, I'm gonna apologize to our guest and our fans ahead of time. It's just I gotta gather myself. I've met a lot of players in my career and stuff like that, but I was a huge fan of their teams growing up. I know he switched places, but really it was like that prime era when I was like getting to high school and really starting to appreciate baseball. So he's from El Cajon, California, went to El Dorado High School, drafted in 1987 by the Twins out of high school in the 28th round, turned it down, went to USC, also jealous of that, one of my favorite places on the planet, and was drafted by the Seattle Mariners in 1990 in the 5th round. Got to be a member of Team USA in college, which I'm a little bit upset about because we're all Paisans here, so we're going to have to talk about that a little bit. He, as you said, Natalie, is the first third generation MLB player of all time. He is the grandson of Ray, son of Bob, and his brother Aaron. Some of you in the greater New York area might know. I won't say the last name yet, but if you haven't figured it out.
I don't know.
He was part of an all-brother infield. So 2 different families. This was really interesting. I don't know if you saw this, but part of him and his brother and another really good player and his brother were made up an infield together in Cincinnati. Played for 6 major league organizations, started with the Mariners and eventually went back there. Reds, Braves, Padres, Twins, and Nationals. 1,775 career hits, 252 career homers. And there were some pretty big years in there when he made his return to Seattle. Really helped carry those teams to being really, really good. Here are my arbitrary stats for the night. In 2003, he ranked 6th in power speed number in baseball with 22. I really, literally, that was the first time I've ever seen power speed number. I don't know what that is, but he ranked 6th in 2003. 2001, he ranked 8th in situational runs added with 4.2. Again, no idea what that is. First time I've ever seen it.
No idea.
In 1996, he ranked 2nd with 5.2 range factor per 9 innings as a second baseman. So, really, what a legend, That pales in, the stuff I'm about to read pales in comparison to that. 3-time All-Star, 4-time Gold Glover, 2-time Silver Slugger, one of my favorite players growing up, and I was a second baseman, so my favorite of the Boones. Don't tell anybody else I said that. Brett Boone, thanks for joining us on the show.
Hey guys, wow, that's a lot of stats. Your green room's nice though. So
I've
been enjoying myself back here.
Do you see how advanced we are? We got to be the only podcast.
I've never heard those stats.
Yeah, I hadn't either. We do a lot of research here. We've been commended for our research capabilities. Usually Natalie does all of it. I just try to find the most arbitrary, ridiculous stat that, because nowadays with all the metrics and stuff.
Yeah.
Well, you did good. You were arbitrary.
Yeah.
Exactly. So I want to start off. Let's talk about it. We did mention you're the first third generation player. Your grandfather Ray, your brother Aaron, but your father Bob. As I was saying before, there's over 19,000 MLB players that played the game. We need about 750 players try to make the team per season. And the 4 of you, including your brother, played baseball. What has that meant to your family? Because combined, you guys have 58 big league seasons, 10 All-Star appearances, 634 home runs, 3,139 RBIs, and 11 Gold Gloves. So
Well, I'll tell you, growing up, kind of for me, I didn't know any different. That was my childhood, and that was just normal life. And I grew up back east. I grew up in New Jersey, so
Yes.
for my early childhood, and then I ended up going to Southern Cal for high school and college. But my buddies were good buddies, and I mean they gave me a hard time about everything, but they treated me like it was no big deal. I'd go to the ballpark and hang out with Pete Rose and Mike Schmidt, and that was just my childhood. So I didn't know any different. So when I got up into high school and college and got drafted and got ready for my professional career, I almost got annoyed by the family questions, if that makes sense. I mean, I was always proud of my dad, proud of my grandfather, proud of my entire family, but I didn't really care when I was going through it. It was like, no, this is me now, and let's talk about me leading the league in AAA and hitting. I don't want to talk about what's it like to be a third generation player.
Right.
But that kind of comes with the territory, and like I said, when you're a kid growing up, I knew no other way. But now being, getting into my 50s, I look back on those years, and I have a lot of really good memories from it, and pretty proud of my family.
As you should. It's incredible. I mean, the stories, I read the book, so it's definitely intriguing.
Did you? Very good.
I love how raw and your attitude. If they don't like me, that's their problem. It was same then as it is now.
Yeah.
So I was definitely impressed by it.
Natalie is really good at doing that. If we're having a guest that has a book out, she's all over it. So
Natalie.
I love the stories. I have so many. I do all the non-baseball stuff. I'm the spaghetti of the podcast.
Right.
And I'm technically the idiot of the podcast.
No, he's not the idiot. He's not the idiot. But I guess one baseball thing is you were drafted twice in '87. You turned it down back in 1990. You played in the minors, Calgary Cannons. Talk about the day that you were being told you were going to the big leagues, because I thought that was a great snippet of the book.
Yeah, it was interesting. I had a Bronx, New York native as my AAA manager, and he was tough on me that year. I was in AAA and all. Yeah, Keith Bodie. I think he's still doing it, but man, he was hard. We had kind of a veteran team that year in AAA, and I was the youngster. And there was a lot of talk about when I was going to get called up because of this generation thing, and I remember the day I got a base hit to right field. See, you've already read about this, but I got a base hit to right field, and I think Raul Mondesi at the time was playing right field. I rounded first, just a clean base hit to right, and he threw behind me, and I ended up getting back, and I was safe. And pinch runner comes out of the dugout, and he said, "Boone, I'm running for you." And I said, "No, you're not." And he said, "Yeah, I am. Skip sent me out here." And I looked at Skip. I said, "What's the problem here?" And he says, "You're out of the game. When I tell you you're out of the game, you're out of the game." And I said, "No, I'm not. I'm going to play." And because that's how I was back then. It's like I'm playing, I'm swinging. And he came out, and we had kind of an argument on the field. And now F-bombs are being dropped, and I'm pissed, and he's playing it to a T. And he's screaming at me in my face, "I'm your skipper, and when I tell you to get the F out of the game," and I'm F you, and throwing my helmet, and I get into the dugout, and I'm pissed. He said I didn't hustle to first, and I knew I did. And I get in the dugout, and he looks at me, and he kind of chest bumps me, like we're going to fight. And he starts smiling, and he goes, "You're going to the big leagues, kid." And I just, man, I was kind of stunned and shocked, and that's how it all started.
That's awesome.
That's great. Those are my favorite stories about when guys got called up. I mean, I remember mine pretty vividly, but it was much more subtle than that. But when managers can really play it off, I think that's one of my favorite things ever. Really deep in the story, yeah.
Well, if you're going to do it, you got to sell it.
Yeah.
I mean, based on how I read it, he definitely sold it. You guys are.
Yeah, he was good.
Up there.
He was good.
Well, so I have to say kudos to you as a storyteller too, because apparently now I have to read the book. So you just got another.
I'll tell you what, if you want to hear more of it, you can hear the audio version because it's in my voice, which that'll put you to sleep.
Yeah, because you had some great liners that I can't repeat on here.
Yeah.
In the book.
Well, Natalie and I were talking before, and this is I sent you a tweet the other day, and I was talking about, like, you have my favorite dismount of all time after a homer, and we were talking about it before you came on, and you don't see many guys that flip it out front. Like you were probably like I said, it's a disservice to call it a bat flip because it's a dismount. It's a natural, like, it's a reaction back. And Natalie was saying, you mentioned Joey Bats's bat flip in the book, and I happened to be playing first base in that game, so I front row and center on that homer. Talk to me about how your dismount / bat flip / homer reaction started, and if you knew you were doing it. I'm super curious. I've always wanted to ask you this.
Well, I mean, if you go back to when I was a younger player and just watch my at-bats, and just watch when I get a base hit or a ball that's squared up. It didn't necessarily have to be a base hit, but something, as you know, when you square one up, it's a good swing. Every time I would square one up, I had a way of getting rid of the bat, and it was just kind of a dismount. Jeter kind of does it when he gets hit, he kind of flings it. And that's just the natural way we get rid of the bat. I can't think of the guy's name. It's in the book, though. So, Natalie, can you remind me? But what was his name? Bo Ringer.
It might have been, yeah. I think so.
He was a teammate of mine in Cincinnati, and a good guy, and I loved him. He was a reliever. I don't know if it was. No, I might have got it wrong. Anyway, long story short, I was in San Diego, and I come up with a runner on third, less than 2 outs, and every hitter in the world knows that's our time. Yep. And when we don't get that job done, man, that's a long night. So yeah, I end up. It was close, and it was late in the game, and it was close. It was a big run out there, and I popped one up to the catcher. One of those obvious ones, like it's not out of play, you're out. Yeah. So I'm kind of moseying back to the dugout, and he gets right in my face. He goes, "Atta baby, Boone, way to pop it up." Now, this is my friend, but at the time, he's on the other team, and this isn't the time or the place to be having this conversation with me. I'm pissed.
Yeah.
So I kind of remembered that. And later in the year, I got him late in the game, big home run. And I just kind of didn't know what to do. So I kind of just flipped my bat and ran around, kind of pimped it a little bit. It was the first time I've ever done that. And I don't know, it kind of took off from there. And then I naturally got rid of the bat. So I just started to add to it. It really took off when I went to Seattle because I had some teammates that would egg me on. Mark McElmore was a big guy. He'd be behind it. Boone, you got to do the bat flip, Then the bat flip kind of became the thing. And it was kind of a shtick for me. And when I got one, I kind of let you know a little bit. I never stood there and watched it. It was kind of part of my release, and I was running it first.
Yeah,
and, I don't know. I didn't mean it to really be showboaty. I just meant it to kind of let you know I got you, and you know it. And that was it. I was on my way to first. I had fun with it more than anything else, and really. Never got drilled too many times. I don't remember ever getting drilled for a bat flip. But if it would have happened, I'd have gone to first. I would have understood.
My general rule of thumb with bat flips. So there's like 4 or 5 things that can happen after you hit a homer, right? Like you hit it and you can hold it. That's 1. Like then you watch it, right? That's 2. I consider those like 2 separate things. You can walk out on a guy and then you can do a slow jog. So really there's like 4 things that can happen. I tell people all the time, if you do like one of them, you're good. Like you just do one, you're cool. Like the pitcher has no right to hit you. You start flirting with 2 and 3 of those things, like then we got a problem, And like the hold, watch, and flip is like I consider watch and flip, I guess, the same. So I never took your bat flip or your dismount as a disrespectful sign. It was to your point, like when I'd hit a ball, like when I was a kid, I would fire it backwards, and I started hitting the catcher so much.
It's kind of natural, right?
Yeah, it's that recoil. And like I had to learn how not to throw the bat off the catcher, ironically enough. So I definitely get where you're coming from. And it stands out in my mind because like You don't see many guys that have the ability to flip it out front now. And I think it was so awesome. And I appreciate you like showing, and we were talking a little bit before, like, I think the bat flip's gotten a little bit out of control now, right? Like it's
very much out of control.
I think so, and I don't want to be that. I told myself when I was a kid, and I would never be that guy that's retired. And now, I've been out of the game for 12 years. I'm not going to be that guy that tells my kid, oh, you guys today, you got to do it the way we did it, That being said, it doesn't mean I have to agree with everything. I have to accept it. It's not my game anymore. It's the current players. It's their game. It's the way it is. And I think recently, especially last year, a big segment of unwritten rules in the game, and that kind of got overplayed to nauseum. And I had some time to think on.
Oh no,
we lost him. We lost him. Oh, there he is. He's back.
On the analytical side and having to really think about it, these unwritten rules. And it's like I thought about it and I'm thinking, what are unwritten rules? It's not what I decide, or it's not what my generation decides. If the players today, they make their own unwritten rules. Mm-hmm. And I think as ex-players, we don't have to like it. But history is going to judge one day on whether it was accepted or it wasn't. I can't just go everything. I think as baseball players and as ex-baseball players, I think the best way to move forward is you got to change with the game. I see some of the things these kids are doing today, and I'm kind of envious about all the data that is available to these players. I mean, I was one of those guys. I wanted as much intel as I could get on my opponent. Yeah. So I'm a little envious in that way. I think it might be some of the data we have so much that it might be a little overkill.
Overload, yeah.
And it, too much information in the wrong hands can become a psychological detriment, I think. But I think I have to move forward with the generation of now, and just accept it and go, hey, this is the way these kids do it now. And I can also draw on my father's generation. And I think if you combine the two with my generation, I think you're going to get the best formula going forward on how this game is perceived. And I try to keep an open mind. And I've got a son that's ready to go to his first spring training.
Right.
And I tease him all the time, because the guys today, they are just, like my son will meet up with his buddies, and I said, what costume are you wearing today? Because everybody's got the undergear and the socks that match the wristband, that match the gloves. And I'm like, we used to just hit shorts and a cut-off T-shirt. But that's the way they do it now. And, it's okay. And I was just at the cage with him. So I accept the young guys. And like I said, I'm envious of a lot of things they have that I didn't have access to when I was playing. But just combine all the generations, and baseball is still baseball. And you play it right and you play it hard.
Exactly.
That's such a cool perspective. You mentioned the unwritten rules thing. Like, I got asked a lot about, the Tatis homer on 3-0. Up by 5 in the 8th inning was the moment this past year that really stood out. And that was where the conversation, I think, stemmed from. And people kept talking about unwritten rules. And I said, I don't even think that's an unwritten rule is a thing. I think the game just used to police itself. So it wasn't necessarily a rule, but I'll tell you what, if you did that to Nolan Ryan, the next guy was getting one in the back. And then the guy after that was probably getting one in the back. He might have gone down the whole line until he got back to Tatis, and then he would have got one in the neck. So the fact of the matter is, now I think we've put the game has put so many restrictions on that, and obviously we want to protect players and try to be weary of injury and things like that. But at the same time, it's kind of taken away from a little bit of the natural recourse that would happen from some of those situations. You know what I mean? And now if a pitcher gets fined and gets suspended for a week, like, he might lose, I don't know, $100,000. Like, so, he's sitting there going, well, I'm not really sure,
Right. And I think, too, now the umpiring is different, and they're not giving you an opportunity to go eye for an eye. And I think that's also true with the, I think the economics of the game have changed so much. So these owners, they got a little more, in my day, the big guys were making $10 million. Now guys are making $35 million. And they don't want their players getting hit in the neck. So I can completely understand that. I'd like to see the players monitor it themselves a little more. I like that as a purist, but the game's changed a little bit. And I had on my podcast, I had Trevor Bauer on, and I remember last year when he said, "I wish you would have flipped his bat on me." Well, in my generation, I've never heard a pitcher ever say that. You were talking about the Nolan Ryans. I played with Norm Charlton, one of the nasty boys from Cincinnati, and I'll tell you, you're not kidding. And it wasn't something that was discussed in my time. Those guys in the bullpen would monitor it themselves, and they'd watch the game. So if Norm hit somebody, it's not like we had to have a discussion about it. And it might be something 6 months from now. And that's why I don't like to take things out of context these days. Oh, why did he get hit? Well, you don't know. It could have been something 2 years ago in a spring training where that pitcher and that hitter know. And that was the time to get him. And it took that long. But I'm a big proponent of an eye for an eye in this game, and letting the players kind of police one another. I think that's the best for the game.
It's awesome. Yeah. For me personally, I couldn't agree with you more, and I think so highly of you. And just to get to hear you say these things, you've got a new fan of your podcast. I didn't know you had one until just now, so I'm all in on that.
Well, you got to check it out. See, I plugged it.
It's going to go right next. The only two podcasts I have is How I Built This, which is my favorite business podcast. I have a startup company now, and we'll talk about that later. It's about baseball and data and trying to figure out how to streamline all of it. I'm actually giving a shameless plug for my own company. This is the first time I've ever done this. I'm wearing our short sleeve hoodie tonight because I, again, got done working out. I didn't have a long shower. But going back to you as a player, I think one of the things that I remember so vividly is you became such a big part of those teams when you went back to Seattle. Do you think like getting back to Seattle as a player, like what would you say was the thing that kind of took you that next level as a player when you got there? Was it partly feeling like you were going back home to the organization that drafted you, or were there some changes that you made yourself swing wise? Because I was a big swing change guy. I understood the value of kind of moving the bat better in space. I mean, you became arguably I would say probably the best offensive second baseman that I remember, and you really revolutionized the position in my mind. So what was it that really took you from, the guy you were before to the all-star silver slugger type Brett Boone?
Well, the second half of my career, I kind of had that epiphany. I had that moment where I just kind of woke up one day, and it was in the late 90s, and I just thought, man, I've had some good years. I've had some tough years. But I don't know that I'm doing everything I can to be the best player I can. So I started from the mental side as, I'm going to change my diet, and I'm going to eat like a triathlete, and I'm going to start getting into the gym. I never was a workout guy ever. Everybody'd go to the gym. I'd say I'm a baseball player. I don't lift weights, and this is in the still mid 90s. Mm-hmm. So I hired a trainer. I hired a nutritionist, and I just kind of went, which is kind of the norm nowadays. But back then it was kind of cutting edge, and I just bought it hook, line, and sinker. I went into that. I made some swing changes like you were referring to, and really a huge mentor of mine, and really kind of changed my perspective on hitting and how to approach the game from a mental side was Edgar Martinez. And I had played with him early in my career, but this time I had, going into the 2001 season, I was really gonna not let this opportunity pass me by. So day one of spring training, I went to Edgar and I said, Edgar, I've done this, this, and this, but I want to do this. And how did you do that? And why are you winning batting titles and I'm not? And teach me. And I was kind of a sponge. And Edgar we became really close, and probably my, for that time period, my best friend in the game. And he just basically went through me. We definitely had different approaches, different swings. But it was the same thought process, and it was have an approach for each and every at bat for 162 games, and he just instilled in me that if you have your approach and you don't waver over that period, you're going to have nights where you have a rough night and you're wrong, and the pitcher has your number. But if you do that over 162 games, you're going to give yourself the best chance to be the best player you can be individually. And we used to do a thing called 5 deep, which means if I'm up 5th in the order, the process starts. So now my brain starts going. And it's who's in the bullpen, who's on the mound, who's hitting in front of me, who's hitting behind me. What's the pitcher's record against me? How have I done against him? Edgar usually hit behind me, so I'd go to Edgar right away and say, hey, what's your history with this pitcher on the mound right now? So I know if there's a base open situation, is he going to come after me or is he going to pitch around me to get to Edgar? Who knows? Who knows? The only way you're going to know is by asking your teammates. I'm looking in the bullpen. Who possibly is going to come out of that bullpen? Who's up? Is John Olerud hitting behind me? Is there a lefty in the pen? Who knows? But all these things go into formulate my plan. And when I leave that on deck circle, I have my plan. I stick to it. I don't waver. And Edgar was the one and really instilling that into me. And I took that probably the last 5 or 6 years of my career and had some of the best years I've ever had.
It's awesome. I know that if I continue to talk on this show, then I'm going to take this way too deep into the night. Cause I would love,
my phone's going to die.
I know. I want to talk so much hitting with you after hearing your process. I'm very much on board with that. And the thing that I think always blew me away about you, and one of the things that I had no idea how to do when I was young, was hit the ball the other side of the field. And my backstory is a little weird. In 2010, my best friend Bobby Tewksbury, not the pitcher, the hitting guy, the one that threw the home run derby to Donaldson, he started introducing some ideas about swing mechanics, and I started learning how to deliver the bat better and get behind the baseball, and I started using the other side of the field, and I went from a dead pull guy when I was playing independent ball for the 6 or 7 years I was there, and then I got to the big leagues, and now I was known as the guy that hit the ball the other way. So I revered that about you, and I see so many of the characteristics that I learned to have later on in my career. I was 28 years old at the time when somebody really introduced proper swing mechanics to me, and I'm always so intrigued, and especially to talk about the mental side of it, because I was fortunate enough to play for a guy Rich Gedman, who was a catcher in the big leagues for 10 plus years, and Ged's like my mentor, surrogate father, big brother, all those things that really taught me how to compete, mental side, how to hit with 2 strikes and all those things. But when I was able to implement the swing changes, so that's why I was curious about you more than anything else, because I saw so much of what I learned how to do be so natural in you in those years in Seattle. And it's super cool to me. So I'm sorry if Natalie, I'm going to overtake the baseball side.
No. What you want to do as a hitter, and when I talk to young hitters today, hitting is so hard, especially at the big league level. I have the best chance if I can eliminate a pitch from you. And it's the simplest thing. If I can take a located pitch, fastball low and away, which is a pitcher's pitch. And where does every pitcher go when they're in trouble and they need a strike? Fastball away. If you can take that away from them, you don't have to hit one into the bleachers. You don't even have to hit one in the gap. You smoke a ball to right field on a located pitch. First of all, the pitcher's first thought is, that was a good pitch. How did he do that? Yeah. Well, my next at bat, there's a pretty good chance he's not going fastball away. Now, the elite pitchers will. They'll go right back to the well, and that's smart. But the average guy out there, wow, he just took my fastball away last bat and treated it like it was nothing. I better not go there. Well, that becomes easy for me now. Now he's coming in, or he's going to try to trick me with a breaking ball. I don't want to hit the pitch in, and there's not too many people that can locate in. So I'm going to ignore the fastball. I'm going to sit on that breaking ball. It might take me 4 pitches, but eventually I'm going to hit it, and then the key is don't miss it. Eliminate a pitch. It makes it easier. Yeah. Guys, you know what? Hold on. This thing's down. Let me get a charger. I got to plug it.
Yeah, take your time. We can keep going. We're the most relaxed show in America. Yeah. Natalie, I'm serious. All I want to do is talk hitting now.
Talk hitting. Talk hitting. That's why we're here.
We're spaghetti and baseballs. We're not a show about hitting. I can't bump the show. There's so many things I want to talk to him about.
We can ask him about when he was asked to be in a movie, Mr. Baseball.
Well, okay, yeah, it's your turn. I'm telling you, this is going to turn into 2 hours if I keep going. I'm serious.
No, we can't do that.
I know we can't do that. That's why I said I'm going to just keep asking. So I need Natalie to ask a couple of her questions.
Quick. You made a bet with Jim Campanis about getting whoever made it to the big leagues first. You bet a BMW. Do you still have the BMW?
Oh, the little car he bought me? Yeah, bless Jimmy, and he's still a friend of mine today. College teammate of mine. It was kind of an easy bet for me. He had no chance to beat me, and he kind of knew it. But I was a little disappointed with the car. I didn't expect a Matchbox, but nevertheless, he came through with the bet. He didn't say what kind of BMW, and it ended up being like a no, he didn't. And forget how he got to me, but he did get it to me.
No, because when I was reading it, I was like, no way. Because you said he got the box. Like, the box was like the size of the keys. I was like, did he really give him a BMW?
No. Jimmy's too cheap for that.
Oh, man. How about Jay Buhner? I think he did a little something to your close rookie year. How did that pan out?
Yeah, Jay, a lot of those veterans on that Mariner team in '92 when I came up, they gave me a hard time. And to be honest with you, I deserved it. I was probably one of the most brash 22-year-olds ever come to the big leagues. And I could dish it out, but I could take it too. And those guys were tough on me. Jay was one of my the early guys that really took me under his wing. But man, by the time I got to the ballpark till I left every night, he was on me 24. I mean, that's all he would do is he'd bless my, you know what? I don't know if I can say that on this podcast. But,
we don't have a rating.
He'd bust my balls morning till night. But then he let me stay at his condo, and he wouldn't let me pay any of the bills. And just like on a road trip, he cut the sleeves off my suits. He cut all the buttons off my shirt so I couldn't button up my shirt. I'd have my suit pants were shorts. And then we'd get to New York, and he'd take me shopping and buy me 3 new suits. So it was tough love, but I appreciate those guys coming out. Huh?
You got a steak dinner out of it.
I got steak dinners. I got suits. I got free places to live when I was a rookie, and wasn't making that much money. So all was much appreciated. He was a big part of my early career.
That's awesome. One more thing, Mr. Baseball. What happened there when you're asked to be in a movie?
Oh man, you did read the book, Mr. Baseball. Okay, it was shot at my alma mater, so it was shot at USC. Mm-hmm. I'll try to make it a short story. I get a phone call. I think I just finished my A-ball season. I just had signed and did my short season, and I came home, and I got a call from the ex-third baseman at the Angels, which was Doug DeCinces. And Doug had somehow woven his way into Hollywood, and he was going to be the talent coordinator on Mr. Baseball. So he called me and he said, Brett, we really need to make the action shots look like professional. So will you come out and play short for a couple of the shots, and we'll pay you X amount of dollars? I said, yeah, it's at USC. I'll come up there. So I went up there. Frank Thomas is on set. He's the star. He's just coming off Rookie of the Year. Frank Thomas doesn't know Brett Boone from Adam. He has no clue, and nor should he. I'm coming out of A-ball. He just wins the Rookie of the Year, but he was kind of prancing around like, I'm the big guy. Oh, what's his name? Who's the star? Selleck. He's walking around like he thinks he's a real player. He's walking on it's like when we were kids and we got our first pair of metal spikes and we'd walk on the cement so we could hear it click. I felt like he was doing that. Anyway, I got the producer up there. We're taking ground balls. The shot is Frank's supposed to come up and throw to second, but the producer tells me they're hitting me a fungo and I'm going 1. Well, I come up, fire into 1. Frank gives me this look like, treating me like extra. And they're yelling at me from the booth, and Selleck's giving me this look like, who's this guy? It was about 2 or 3 takes, and I had enough. I said, listen, first of all, you're not a baseball player, Selleck. You're a Hollywood fella. Frank, I don't give a shit about your Rookie of the Year. And Mr. Producer, man, you have no clue about baseball. And I told Doug, I said, you can take your extra money, and I'm done. And I took my stuff and I left.
You're everything I hoped and dreamed you would be. This is exactly what I needed in my life, Brett. I'm like, and you know what? Like, a testament to you. You said you were one of the brashest 22-year-olds to ever come up to the big leagues. you have to be like that if you're going to go play with those dudes. Like when I got to the big leagues, like I kind of like tiptoed around. I was a 29-year-old when I got there. Was a little nervous. And I said, F this, like in 2015. And, that's how I got the goggles behind me, hit 321 for the Blue Jays. Like you have to own it, right? And that's so impressive, I think, that you were able to do that even there in that setting where I would a little nervous here.
We're back to like Jay Buhner when he was telling you just pay it forward. He goes, pay it forward to another snot-nosed rookie who doesn't deserve it. So that was the attitude.
Jay was great. He was awesome. Like I said, he was like my big brother when I got to the big leagues. I mean, he really took care of me. And I was just telling my son about my first spring training, my first big league camp, and I came in and I was caddying for Harold Reynolds at the time, and you know what I'm talking about by caddying. Seventh inning, go pick up.
I don't know if Natalie does. I do. I know what that is.
I'll pretend that I do.
Right. When you're a young player, you kind of the guy that ahead of me was Harold Reynolds. He was the veteran second baseman for Seattle. So during spring training, he'd get his at bats, and then when he was done, here comes the caddy. Usually the rookie that hey. Harold's going to take it in. You go finish up the game. Sometimes you get in at bat, sometimes you don't. But I had a really good spring, and we go to Las Vegas. I'm still not even supposed to be in spring training. I was supposed to be sent out 2 cuts ago, and the veterans are starting to look at me like, what's he still doing here? And I get a start in Vegas, the getaway day. Harold takes the day off. I get 3 hits. I hit a homer. And now the veterans are really looking at me like, is he going to make this team? Because they're going to Seattle after the game. No, sure enough, I get the call, go to the manager's office. He said, Boone, hey, you had a great spring for us, but go down there to AAA, get it done. And I still remember the big league bus getting ready to go to the airplane, and I'm sitting on the curb with my bags packed. I'm waiting for a cab to go to Calgary, Canada, and Booner's in the bus, and all I see is a bare ass and a couple birds saying, hey, rookie, you thought you were going to make the team. You had no chance from the beginning. But that was my first experience, and it was all in good fun. But, I was brash. I was really naive. Believe me, this game's humbled me many times over. But I look at a young kid now. I look at the kids in the minor leagues, and when I find that kid that really has no clue but really believes that he's the greatest, I want 10 of those guys, because this game's going to humble you by going out there day in and day out. But you got to believe in yourself. So I love that young, naive guy that knows he's a really good player and isn't afraid to let you know. I don't need to beat him down. I don't need to tell him, who do you think you are? And no, this game's going to – Greg Maddux, I used to tell people, Greg Maddux is going to humble that rookie. I don't need to humble him. As long as he's here and he's respectful of the veteran players, I had no problem with rookies coming up. I wasn't a guy that put a dress on you I'd laugh at the guys that dress you up, or the young guys that would come. But I really wasn't that guy behind it. I just always thought this game will humble you. I don't, as a veteran player, have to do it.
It sure does, because I want to go back to Lee Warner. He had a comment about your reaction to Aaron's home run in 2003. I read that the night before, Aaron was in a slump. You gave him a pep talk, and that next day he hit that, the biggest home run ever. I'll never forget where I was. I know you were in the booth.
I was in Boston, so it didn't go over well here. Just FYI.
Yeah. I was in the booth, and I didn't want to be in the booth for that. We had just finished my 2003 Mariner season. It was a rough finish for us. 194 games, didn't make it to the postseason, and that was when they were first trying out the third guy in the booth. So I was Buck and McCarver, and I ended up agreeing to it. Well, worst case scenario, I'll get to see my brother play some games,
right?
And I was just kind of on a little bit of a vacation. I'd go out to nice dinners and, partying a little bit. And I remember Aaron was having a really tough postseason, and I went to his apartment in New York, and I stopped by, and he was kind of laying in the bed and kind of, grumpy. And I just kind of I said, what are you going to do? Pout about it? What, you had a rough postseason? Like, oh, you don't know what it's like, he tells me. I said, I don't know what it's like. I said, flip over my bubblegum card once in a while. I know exactly what it's like. And I remember telling him, I said, listen, tomorrow's a new day. I said, if you turn a big double play and you guys win, if you hit a sacrifice fly and you guys win tomorrow's game, nobody cares about the postseason and what you've done. And I kind of left him with that. Well, I get to the ballpark the next day. He's not even in lineup. So now I feel kind of really bad. And I just remember him coming out on deck and I saw Wakefield pitching and I'm like, because you know how it is when we can't get a hit off a regular pitcher. Well, let's throw a knuckleballer in it. Because normally I don't want to face a knuckleballer.
Right.
But if I'm struggling, let's mix it up. Who knows? Yeah. Let's play a wiffle ball game. And I thought if he's got no chance against a regular right-hander right now, so maybe just a knuckleballer is what he needs. And he hit that homer, and I just remember sitting in the booth, and my reaction that you see if you watch it on YouTube now, that was as genuine as it gets. I was so happy for him. I was speechless, and I remember having the earphones in my ear, and the guys in the truck are going, "What are you doing? You're not saying anything." And then 2 seconds later, no, silence is the best thing right now. So, I mean, I was just doing what came natural. It was just, I was in awe. I couldn't believe he went from the worst postseason he could imagine having to getting benched in that game to coming up to hitting one of the biggest home runs in the history of the game. And that was really just, I tell people all the time, I said, that was just me being the proudest brother I could possibly be at that moment. And it was a really cool thing to watch.
That's unbelievable. I'm telling you, I would, man, I got to talk to you again after the show at some point because I want to hear all the stories. So it's going to lead me directly. And I'm in complete, like, I'm in such agreement with you, right? And the thing that my first postseason, or my only postseason, I guess, was I felt so comfortable. Everybody's kind of like, people are nervous. I said, guys, we got 5 games in the division series. We got 7 in the ALCS, 7 in the World Series. Said, who cares if you're 0 for 50? That don't go on the back of your bubblegum card. You get one big one here. Like, that's all anybody's going to remember. And obviously, I mean, to Aaron's credit, like, I think anybody mentions Aaron Boone and Yankees, like, that's what they remember. They don't remember his struggles before that. They don't remember what he did in the series. And most people probably don't even remember that he wasn't playing. But, I mean, that's awesome. And it was going to lead me into kind of, how is it watching your brother be a manager now? And have you ever thought about going into the dugout? And I mean, I would say like there's probably an opening for you in New York if you need one in the dugout. It's something.
I'm sure you know someone.
Yeah. Well, I'll tell you, I was talking about, learning as we go. If you would have grabbed me 15 years ago and says, what do you want to do when you finish baseball? I said, I want to be nowhere near it. When I can't play second base anymore, I want to go home and go off in the sunset and go golfing and go on vacation. Now, life hits you, and it's a little bit different than what you expected it to be. So, I'm at this point in my life now where I've got 2 sons that are juniors in high school, and they're almost out of the house, and I'm getting a little bit on the on the analyst side. I'm starting to delve into that world a little bit, but I wouldn't discount going into the dugout in some capacity. One day, I think I'd really like to manage, but we'll see where it goes from here. I'm definitely interested in pursuing a lot of avenues right now, so we'll see where it takes me.
That's awesome. That's good stuff. I think we'll. I'm good. I don't want to keep you too long. We can wrap it up here. I don't know if you know how we wrap up Spaghetti and Baseballs, but we always do a rapid fire, which I need to tell you, when you do it with Italian people, rapid fire is not rapid. So feel free to extend your answers as much as you need. You have any justification for what you want to say? They're real doozies. Like we come in hot with these questions. Natalie always does the first one. So here we go.
All right, you're on our podcast, honorary Italian. Your last name does end in a vowel. So I'm going to ask you, pasta. Do you call it sauce or gravy?
Sauce.
Oh. See, smart. Smart man.
We get really offended when people call it.
Is that right? Is that right? Is that a question? But remember, I grew up in Jersey. I know a little bit of that.
Okay. Yeah, you definitely have some de facto paisan in you. Natalie gets really mad at guests when they say gravy. She's like, "Oh,
gravy! Come on, that's
amateur
hour."
Yeah, no, I mean,
thank you. I think we had one guest say it was gravy, and I can't remember who it was.
All right, I have this is my question. This is my personal question. Silver Slugger or Gold Glove? Most proud.
Ooh. Gold Glove. Because I was always an offensive second baseman, considered offensive, coming up through the minor leagues, and everybody always talked about my hitting, and I thought I'm pretty good with the glove, and I worked my butt off on the defensive side of the ball. So I think when I won my first Gold Glove, I just thought that was kind of solidifying everything I always said, how good I was with the glove. But and they were tough to win, because they don't just hand them to you. You got to kind of break down the barrier, and whoever's winning the gloves at the time, you kind of have to. You can't just have an equal year with them. You got to kind of break the ceiling and get that first one. So that first one, that was very gratifying.
That's awesome. This is a crowdsourced Italian question. Ravioli or chicken parm?
We're taking health benefits out of it.
Yeah,
because I can kind of scrape the chicken parm and get a little bit of chicken. I'm going to go definitely strictly taste ravioli.
Okay, good.
Right. I like that. I like that one.
And we're sticking with 4 tonight because I want to get you out of here. And this I normally never do this with my rapid fires. This is like an open-ended rapid fire. What's your proudest achievement in the game?
Oh, proudest achievement. I don't think I really have one. One that stands out. I mean, I'm proud of the family aspect of it. I'm proud of the Gold Gloves, the Silver Slugger. It was overwhelming to me the first All-Star game I met. I got to go to one World Series. I got to lead the league in RBIs one year. But I don't think my team in 2001 we won 116 games. That's
116 wins.
I don't think we'll ever see. So I would say the most impressive thing I've ever been a part of, I think, was that 2001 Seattle Mariner team. So not really an individual, but a team thing. But individually, man, I just hope that when my teammates speak of me, they said, he played the game right and he played the game hard.
Well, I'll do it for sure from now on. I'm sure your teammates will too, but believe me, you had a fan in me. You got a bigger one now. So thank you so much for your time. This was
you got it, guys.
Awesome for me. If you get like random direct messages on Twitter because I want to hear more stories, you can ignore me. I'll deal with it.
No.
Okay, so me and you follow me on Twitter. All right, I'll follow you back on Twitter.
I get a follow back. You know what's funny? You mentioned Frank Thomas in this, and Frank just followed me on Twitter the other day. I don't know why or how it happened, but anytime like you get a checkmark follower from like a baseball guy, especially I'm like a big old school guy, Brett. Like you have to understand, like I like the game way better circa like 1980 to 2000. So I got Harold Reynolds. You mentioned Harold. Like I talked to Harold a lot. Like Harold said to me, I should have been playing in the 1980s because that's kind of how I am. So
Harold's good people. And ever since the I told the funny story about Mr. Baseball, but me and Frank are cool. I've had plenty of times with him since then. I never told him that story because I'll tell you what, I don't think Frank would have remembered that it was me, the pipsqueak at shortstop, doing his movie. But Frank's.
I'm gonna go scratch.
Well, now I have a reason to cut the snippet out of the show, tag both you guys on Twitter, and then we can start a full hitting conversation. I'll just sit there like this. I'm just gonna be like, oh my god, this is awesome.
I'll tell you what, you talk about somebody that could hit. Check the back of Frank's bubblegum card. That's impressive.
I've looked at it a few times. Believe me, it's I love the tradition of the game. These are this is why part of why I do this with IBF. As much as we're doing it to help the foundation and We love the Italian American Baseball Foundation. For me, there's like a completely ulterior agenda to get to meet guys like yourself and talk the game. So
exactly. For me, grew up loving baseball, originally from the Bronx. This has been amazing for me to get to meet such amazing people through this.
Well, it was my pleasure, guys. Thanks for having me on.
Thanks for coming on, Brett. Natalie, great job as always.
Yes.
Signing off, everybody. Spaghetti and Baseballs.
BC and BB, same field.